Barron Trump asks his father the question no one saw coming. "Dad, is America dying?" Donald Trump's response stunned not only his son, but everyone listening, leaving them speechless and questioning everything they thought they knew. Barron Trump had never been one for idle chatter. Tall, reserved, and observant, he usually absorbed the world quietly, keeping his thoughts to himself. But tonight, something felt different. Something weighed heavily upon him, deeper and more pressing than anything he had felt before. He stood at the edge of the study, hesitant to interrupt his father, Donald Trump, who was absorbed in documents scattered across his massive desk. The room was quiet, the only sounds being the soft rustle of papers and the faint ticking of an antique clock. "Dad?" Barron's voice was quieter than he'd intended. Trump glanced up distractedly at first, but immediately straightened when he saw Barron's solemn expression. "Barron," he said warmly, setting his papers aside, "is everything all right?" Barron paused, wrestling internally with his question. Then, finally, he stepped into the room fully. "Dad, I need to ask you something important," he repeated, his voice firmer now, but tinged with uncertainty. Trump leaned back, giving his son his full attention. "Go ahead, son." Barron swallowed, gathering his thoughts. "I've been watching the news, seeing what's happening around the country. People seem more divided than ever. There's anger, violence, hopelessness." Trump waited patiently, sensing the gravity behind Barron's hesitation. "I guess what I'm really asking is America dying?" The blunt honesty of the question seemed to hang in the air, heavy and unmoving. Trump did not immediately reply. Instead, he slowly stood up, walked to the large window behind him, and looked out thoughtfully over the city skyline. Barron followed closely, his father's rare silence unsettling him even more. The older man exhaled deeply, still facing away, before finally speaking. "Why do you ask?" Barron felt frustration rising but forced himself to remain calm. "Because everywhere I look, things seem to be getting worse, not better. The country seems to be losing itself. People aren't just disagreeing, they're despising each other. Families are being torn apart. Friends can't even talk to each other anymore." Trump turned around, studying Barron's earnest face closely. "And what do you think? Do you think it's dying?" Barron hesitated again, his eyes dropping momentarily before returning to his father's penetrating gaze. "Honestly, Dad, I don't know, but sometimes, lately, it feels like we're heading that way." The silence returned, heavy and palpable. Barron shifted uncomfortably, but Trump simply stood, observing him, processing the significance of this moment between father and son. Then Trump nodded slowly. "I've asked myself the very same question, Barron." Barron's eyes widened slightly in surprise. He had expected reassurance, perhaps even a quick dismissal, not this raw vulnerability from his famously confident father. "And what answer did you find?" Barron asked, his voice barely above a whisper, almost afraid to hear the response. Trump stepped closer, his expression serious yet oddly gentle. "I found that the answer is complicated. America, son, isn't just a country. It's an idea, and ideas don't die easily. They survive wars, crises, even the deepest divisions." He paused, holding Barron's gaze. "But they can die if people lose hope, if they abandon their principles." Barron exhaled slowly, taking in his father's words, feeling both comforted and unsettled. "But how do we know if it's too late?" he finally asked, his voice heavy with the burden of responsibility. Trump placed a reassuring hand on Barron's shoulder, his voice soft but firm. "It's never too late, Barron. As long as there are people who believe America is worth fighting for, it's not over. The question isn't whether America is dying. The question is whether we have the courage to keep it alive. Barron felt a sudden rush of emotion, pride mingling with lingering doubt. But he understood now. This conversation was far from over. There was more he needed to ask, and even more his father still had left unsaid. Before he could speak again, the door to the room slowly opened, drawing both their attention. Standing there was someone neither of them had expected: Melania Trump. Her expression was soft, thoughtful, clearly indicating she had overheard part of their intimate conversation. "Sorry," she said softly. "I didn't mean to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing." Barron looked at his mother, sensing her unspoken emotions. "Mom, do you think America is dying?" Melania moved gracefully into the room and settled into a chair near them. Her eyes briefly met Donald's. A silent exchange of understanding passed between them. She then turned her full attention to her son, her voice steady but gentle. "No, Barron, America isn't dying, it's hurting. And when people hurt, they sometimes forget who they are." She glanced briefly at her husband, then back at Barron. "I came here from a different country, a place where freedom wasn't always guaranteed. What I saw in America was hope, not perfection, but the possibility of something better." She paused, collecting her thoughts. "The pain America feels now, it's real. People are angry, afraid, and divided. But pain can teach us. It can show us where we need to grow." Barron absorbed this, still uncertain but deeply thoughtful. "But it feels like everyone is yelling. It feels like nobody wants to listen." Melania nodded slowly. "When your heart hurts, it's hard to hear. And right now, America's heart is wounded. But hearts heal, Barron. They always heal if given enough care, time, and courage." Donald Trump watched silently, deeply moved by Melania's words. It was a side of her that the public rarely saw, the depth of empathy and wisdom she held quietly behind her elegant public exterior. Melania leaned closer to Barron. "You asked if America is dying, but what you're really asking is if there's still reason to hope. And my answer is always yes. America's strength isn't just in its laws or its economy, but in its ability to renew itself, like spring after winter." Barron looked from his mother to his father, sensing a unified message but needing to push just a little further. "Then what should I do? What can I do?" Trump spoke quietly, firmly. "You become someone who refuses to let hope die. You remind people what we're capable of, even when everyone else has forgotten."